All right. Are we all able to see my desktop? Can somebody confirm?
Yes, sir.
Could someone confirm if you all can see my screen? Okay, fine. I see there are a couple of hands that have been raised. All right. Uh, let's start. Let me know, just unmute yourself if there's any issue because I can't see the screen right now. So in case you all raise your hands, I won't be notified. So just unmute and ask if you have any questions. All right. Where are we? Okay, so first let's just talk about the ISDS national selections and exactly why all of us are here. So every year there is this debate called the World Schools Debating Championship, which is basically the World Cup of high school debating, and it's held in a different country every year. This year it's being held in Panama, and one of the countries is, you know, crowned the winner towards the end. There are 70 nations that participate almost every year. Aside from that, there are multiple championships that are held across over 25 nations. There are 600 debaters, coaches, and judges who are at this tournament. And there are 8 preliminary rounds. And then after that, 5 knockout rounds. And after this, a champion is selected. So this is quite a prestigious debate, which is also quite grand as well. As you can tell, there are a lot of people coming from a lot of countries, and you all get to meet all of these amazing people at the World Schools Debating Championship, which we call WSDC, by the way. So this is the Indian contingent at one of the previous WSDCs. So India has the Team A status, which is basically, the highest status you could get at WSDC because for the past couple of years, we have been putting Indian teams at the very top in the championship. In 2017, we were ranked third at the end of preliminary rounds. We were quarterfinalists and we had the ninth best speaker in the world. In 2018, this improved to being second ranked instead of third ranked. In 2019, we were top ranked. In 2021, we were octo-finalists. In 2023, we were top ranked again, quarterfinalist, and we had the second and sixth best speaker in the world. And in 2024, we were top ranked once again, and we had the third best ESL speaker. So as you can see, the trajectory is quite great. And we are hoping that this year as well, Team India is going to do amazing at WSDC and hopefully next year as well. This is possible because we have a lot of students that come from various cities. These students go through a screening, then they go through, selection rounds, they go through a lot of training through the national camp selection. And at the end, a couple of kids are selected, which go to represent Team India the very next year. So in our coaching sessions, we have, people, special trainers who, help you prepare your content, who help you prepare strategy. They help you learn style in debating in terms of speaking better so that your speeches seem quite diverse and look like, previous speakers that speak really, really well. And we help you do debate practice as well. Our coaches are some of the best debaters in the world who have been given multiple positions till now. We have people like Rashdoon, we have Dhananjay Ashok, we have Lucia Ars, we have Kenza Wilkes, we have Amrita Varshini, and we have Saikya. So, we have some really, really good debaters, and we keep getting more every time we have a session. So how does the selection round for Team India work? It can happen through two ways. One, you can have a team, you can register as a team, or you can register as an individual. So you register in these two ways, then then you'll be selected through those. There will be then intermediate rounds where there is a quiz where you kind of have to give an exam, which might sound boring, but it's actually quite interesting. And then there is a national selection camp that happens every year. There are 5 to 6 days of intensive training and debating. And from the kids who are at the national selection camp, we select a couple of kids who get to represent Team India. So team-based entry is a bit easier than individual-based entry, but you can choose for either. Uh, you can form a team from your school or even a cross team, meaning you team up with people outside your school. You register for the region that you belong in. You can download the preparatory material that's available on the ISDS website for free, and then you can just prepare till selections start. So towards the end, basically, we have a team size of each person, which comprises of 3 to 4 members. The time limit for each speech is 5 minutes for juniors and 6 minutes for seniors. The topics of the debate, for some debates are given beforehand, and some debates are given, just 45 minutes before the debate is about to start. These are called impromptu rounds. And the top performing speakers are selected to participate in the intermediate rounds. All right. So we judge a couple of things. We see what your knowledge is like, what your comprehension of a topic is like, and what your speech is like as well, if you speak very well or not. So we judge on various grounds. At ISDS, you're going to get training and coaching from the best debaters across the world. You also compete with students who belong from different regions of India. You get personalized quantitative feedback on how you have performed. You're evaluated again on different things like speaking ability, how you improve over time, what your knowledge is of world affairs, and how you work in a team. And the top students get to be part of the Indian squad. Uh, the reason you should participate in the Harvard College Debating Union WSTC tournament is simple, because the winners of this competition will directly qualify to National Camp 2025. And the top 10 speakers will directly qualify to the intermediate stages of ISTS national selections, thereby, going past some of the tedious process of the selection, which can take a bit of time, and some students find it difficult. So if you do well at this competition, you can directly participate at ISTS selections. Yushika has raised a hand. Go ahead. Uh, Wait. Oh, there's a chat. Chat. Okay, that's a big chat. Okay, you all have a lot of questions. You're not able to unmute. Oh, I am so sorry about that. Give me 1 second. I should be able to change the setting. I'm really sorry. Okay, no. Huh. Okay, let's give me 1 second to figure this out. Let's finish. Structure. Okay. Okay, can somebody try unmuting themselves? Yushika, do you want to try?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Works. You had a question.
Yeah, I was just asking when you said that the winners directly get to go to like the ISDS national camp, what
Yeah.
does the winners refer to? Like those like the team who like actually wins, or like anyone who breaks, or what?
People who actually win the competition. But the top 10 speakers still get to go to the intermediate rounds, skipping the preliminary stage. Uh, Aryama asked, how are ISTS and WSTC different? So Aryama, WSTC is the World Schools Debating Championship. It is the competition, and ISTS is the organization that represents Team India. We select people and then we take them to the competition. WSDC is the competition itself where people compete. I hope that gets clear. Uh, Ayan, go ahead.
We were told that those people from open category who go into the semi-finals and finals, who go into the out rounds, once they directly get selected into the Harvard WSDC for the US one. They will represent India.
Uh, okay, we will get some clarity on this later on. Uh, as of now, the idea is that the winners get to go to national camps. So if you have to go outside, India to represent Team India, you have to go through national camps no matter what, right? So the Harvard Union Debating Championship is just a step you can take, kind of like a shortcut. But you have to go to national camps no matter what. So I will get some more clarity on that, and we will get back to you on that. Is that fine?
Okay.
All right. So I see everybody has a question regarding speech timings. So at WSTC, each speech is supposed to be 8 minutes. However, during our selection process, during some of the Indian competitions and our training sessions, we are going to have a lower speech limit of speech time limit of 5 minutes and 6 minutes. Juniors have to speak for 5 minutes, seniors have to speak for 6 minutes. When you're being trained for WSPC as part of Team India, that time, we'll step it up and you will be practicing 8-minute speeches as well. Rishan, yeah, go ahead.
So if in the first day, like they said that, so my question is that when we go to Jaipur for like the qualifiers, will our speeches be 8 minutes or 5 minutes?
Uh, I think they will be 5 minutes for the junior category and for senior category, 6 minutes. However, again, you can just get a clarity from people at the competition itself. I can get back to you on this as well. I'm here primarily to cover just how you make arguments. So again, see, speech time limit doesn't really matter. So you still have to prepare the same way for arguments. Arguments are still of two different kinds. You still have to prepare beforehand and you have to read up on it. So timings can differ. However, you can just adjust to it later on. That's completely fine. We'll get clarity on this and I'll get back to you. Is that fine? Yeah. But today we're going to primarily cover, arguments, the two different kinds they are of and how you make them. So, it should not be a big issue because that's going to remain the same regardless of what the category you're in or what time limit you're following or what competition you're at. Aryama, go ahead. I'll take one last question and then we'll continue from there.
Yeah, so first of all, my name is pronounced Arima.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'm really
It's
sorry.
fine.
Yeah.
Yes, so I wanted to ask you, like, if in a group, in a team, there is one member of like 10th grade and the other two are 6th or 8th. So in this case, in which category would we be in?
Uh, if I'm not wrong, we do pair you up in the manner that you're put up with people that are, at similar grades as yours. So if you're in 6th grade, maybe you'll be paired up with someone from 7th grade. But people from 6th grades and 12th grades are not really paired up, to be honest.
No, like in the Jaipur round, we are in the most of us will go in the some of us will go in the Jaipur round because of a regional position again. So over there, the teams are decided by the school. So if there are 2-3 people who are from the junior category and there's one person from like the senior category, so I was
Yeah.
a bit confused. Will we be debating against the junior category only or the senior category?
Again, this is something you will have to get a bit more clarity later on. I suggest you reach out to the point of contact you might have for the Jaipur debate, because personally, I'm not taking part in this one. I'm helping organize some other debates. So I don't have exact clarity on this. But if I'm not sure, there are different grades. So maybe you should get some clarity from your school as well. But at the very end, once you get to national selections, you will be paired up with people who are from similar grades and similar categories, right? You might get segregated. Again, I'm not sure why your school is sending 6th graders and 12th graders together, but if that's the case, we'll sort it out later on for sure. Rishan, do you have another question? Okay, fine. All right. No more questions now. Let's actually start debating because that's the fun part of this. If you have any questions, all of you must have your parents who have the contact of the point of the person. They must have a point of contact for the competition, right? So you should probably just get in touch with them and they'll give you a lot more clarity on this. Let me share my screen again. Okay, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, great. There. Okay, let's. All right. Okay, perfect. Again, just covering over why you should participate. It's because you get to go to a lot of places. Our previous teams have gone to Belgrade, Cambridge, Zagreb, Singapore, Bangkok again, depending on where the competitions are happening. You get rigorous training from the people who have studied with ISDS before as well. So these people also get to train you at times. Again, even if you don't get selected for Team India at the end, you make a lot of friends on the way. And honestly, that's the most fun part about ISDS training. Let's move on then. So arguments are of two kinds. The first kind is principled arguments, and the second kind is pragmatic arguments or practical arguments. So I would suggest you write this down. Arguments are of two types. First is principled arguments. Second is practical arguments. So we're going to cover what principled arguments are, how we can make principled arguments, how do principled arguments compare against practical arguments, how we can form a principled argument, how to rebut one if another team is making one, and how to analyze a principle in the first place. The larger example we'll take here is the principle of free choice. But again, principled arguments can be made in different, can be made using, different kinds of principles. All right, so consider the following situation, right? You are four fishermen who are friends in a small coastal town. All of them rely on fishing as their main source of food and income. However, it so happens that one season you were unable to catch enough fish for their sustenance. The four of them got together and decided to go on a fishing trip to a deeper part of the ocean to try their luck. Borrowing a larger trawler from some other local fishermen, the four set out to sea early in the morning. Throughout the day, the fishermen catch fish after fish, managing to reach their quota at the end. The satisfied fishermen prepare to head back in the evening. However, as the sun was setting, dark clouds filled the sky and it began to rain. Soon enough, there was a storm, and the fishermen were caught in the frenzy of the rain and wind. The weather and the ocean mercilessly battered their trawler, and the four fishermen were thrown overboard. Miraculously, the fishermen were able to cling to some pieces of wreckage and drifted onto a deserted island. The island was completely barren with nothing of value or use to be found. The fishermen were stuck without food and potable water in a helpless situation. After starving for 4 long days, the fishermen decided to make a decision in order to satiate their hunger. I hope this is clear to everyone. So just to summarize, four fishermen go out to fish one day. They go out into really deep waters of the sea, but the problem is there's a storm that comes and it, takes their boat and it smashes it and it puts them on an island which is completely barren. There is nothing of value. There is no food, no drinking water, and they're in a helpless situation. 4 days later, these fishermen are starving and they have to make a decision to satiate their hunger. So the scenario one is that the fishermen decide to kill and eat the fourth fisherman in order to survive. So the first three band up together and they're like, oh, we can just eat the fourth fisherman if we want to survive. This is the first scenario. The question here is, do any of you believe that this is morally okay? Do you think it's right for these fishermen to kill the fourth fisherman and just in order to survive? Okay. Cannibalism is bad. No. After the return, they can get fined. Yes, that is true. They can definitely get fined. No, but they'll otherwise die. All right. So I think all of you get the idea here that you might not know the exact reason, and it might not be that this is because the person who eats them will get fined, but this just seems wrong when you think about it. If I ask you a similar question, if I tell you that you could save 100 people by torturing your best friend, would you really do that? And in most instances, I think the answer would be no. No matter what happens, you really don't want to torture your best friend because it just seems wrong. This kind of intuition or this kind of thinking often is derived from our morals, our moral about if something is the right thing to do or not. Is it right to hit another person? Is it right to, like curse at another person? Is it right to use slurs? Is it right to emotionally hurt another person? All of these things are considered morally wrong. So I think all of us can surmise here that if the three fishermen decide to kill and eat the fourth fisherman if they want to survive, this just seems morally wrong, right? I hope all of us can agree on that. Somebody had raised their hand. Could you raise it again? I'm so sorry. I was just about to take your question. Somebody had raised their hands. They have taken it down. Uh, really sorry about that. Okay, fine. If you have any questions, raise your hand again. I'll take the answer, immediately. I'll take the answer immediately. I'm so sorry I couldn't take your question before. Yeah, so let's take the second scenario where the fourth fisherman is actually sick. And the three fishermen decide that they want to kill this person and eat him because he's just sick. Do you think that this is morally okay? People who think this is morally okay, just raise your hand. Not via video, via the, raise hand option. Yeah, that's true, Ayan, actually. They'll be sick too. That's fair. All right. Okay, so some of us believe that they shouldn't do this, and some of us believe that they should, as long as you take permission from the fourth person. So right now we're split, right? Some of us believe that this is morally okay, some of us believe this is not morally okay. Let's take the third scenario, which is that the four fishermen agree to draw lots. So, they choose the smaller stick, basically that game, or they play rock, paper, scissors, or just some random game, right? And the second fisherman got the short end of the stick and was killed and eaten. Do you think this is morally okay? Whoever thinks this is morally okay, raise your hand. Yeah, so just to be clear, everybody has agreed to playing this game. All of them came up with the idea at the same time. Nobody is being forced into this game. Okay, so a lot of us now believe that this is fair because the fishermen are choosing to this draw of lots, and they know that if they get the shorter draw, or they'll get the shorter end of the stick, they will be killed and eaten. So they have consented to this. Some of us still feel like this is maybe morally wrong because you're just eating another person, and that's a wrong thing, right? Let's consider the fourth scenario then. One of the fishermen volunteers to give up his life in for the give up his life for the survival of his compatriots. The fishermen tearfully decide to kill and eat the fourth fisherman in order to survive. Whoever thinks this is morally okay, raise your hands. How about they catch some more fish from the ocean? Rishi, I'm not sure if that's a real option for them because again, they're on a deserted island and there's nothing of value. So I'm not sure if they'll be able to make sticks to catch people, to catch fishes. Okay, so a lot of us now think that this is morally okay because this is a valiant act, right? This has been arrived at by the mutual decision of everybody, and nobody is being forced into being eaten. So this is morally okay. So what makes these scenarios different? So in all of the scenarios, if you will notice, the fourth fisherman is dying, or at least one of them, uh, and the lives of three fishermen are being saved. But these are still unique in some manner. So the end outcome is that three people get to live and one person gets to die, but we still place different values in these four scenarios. The reason for this is, in the first scenario, we don't take any consent or the rights, or nor do we consider the rights of the minority, the person basically dying, because that is only one person and the three people that are living are the majority. So in the first scenario, we have neither consent nor do we have the rights of the minority being respected. In the second scenario, again, we don't have consent and neither do we take the rights of the minority in the process. In the third scenario, though, all of them consent into it equally, right? So everybody is at risk, but they're at risk with equally fair odds. In the fourth scenario, there's consent to the highest extent because the person is volunteering to sacrifice. So even though the outcome is same in all of these four scenarios, the value we place on them is different. And the reason for that is the consent we take from individuals and the rights of minorities that, again, we respect in this scenario. I see we have a couple of hands raised. All right, Nihal, go ahead. Nihal, I'm so sorry. Just correct me if I pronounce your name wrong.
Oh, my question is, instead of killing any one person, how about everyone there give up a part of their body? It is a scenario as well, instead of having to kill any one person.
Yeah, that's fair. That can be a scenario, but we're trying to consider especially a scenario where the outcome is always the same, but the value you place on the decision is still somehow different. So again, there can be a lot of solutions. Another solution could be that all of them try to, swim away to their main island. All of them try to build a boat. They try to build some sticks to catch fishes. However, these are the four scenarios they have come up with. So we're just going to purely talk about them. This again is a hypothetical. We're not trying to solve any problem here. We're trying to understand why in all of these different scenarios where the outcome is the same, why do we still place different values on these decisions? I hope that makes it a bit clear. Thea, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask that in this situation, you said that they had a full fishing boat travel set up, and on their return they got met with a storm and are now stranded on an island. Would
Yeah.
it be possible that in this situation they could go into shallow water and get fish, or is that just not an option?
No, that's not a situation. So again, everyone, this is a hypothetical scenario because we're trying to understand why each scenario seems so different, even though the outcome is the same. Three people get to live at the life of the fourth person. These fishermen can probably be saved by other ways, but again, that's not the topic we are trying to discuss here. Uh, Chitraksh and Nivan, if you have different questions, feel free to ask. But if they're similar to the questions that have been asked before, which is about how you save these fishermen, I think we should skip that. You still have your hands raised. So we'll go ahead with Nivan. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, if they're on an island, so won't there be trees and plants that they can eat?
Yeah. They are on a really, really dry island where there is no vegetation, nothing to eat, not another animal inside which they could eat. So this is their only option. Ayan,
Okay.
go ahead.
Sure, the scenario 4 is morally true, I guess, but all of these scenarios are still not legally allowed. So, I
Yeah.
mean, is it still going to be taken into consideration just because it's morally correct, kind of?
Okay, I think that's a really good question. So, our morals, or a lot of people call them our principles, are quite different from legal systems. While legal systems are also based on moral intuition and the principles that we follow generally as as a species, they're still not one and the same thing. They don't believe that they'll ever be able to get back to their, home island. So they don't care about the legal system in this scenario. So let's just discard the legal scenario in this manner. Does that make sense to you? Can we work with that? We still have questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Ira, go ahead.
Um, Sir, since it's a stranded island, like where there's nowhere to go, why should can't they just starve to death? Because there any like if this continues, there anyways just gonna be only one person left, and that guy's anyways gonna starve to death. So shouldn't that just be the case?
Yes, again, everyone, there can be a lot of cases. Maybe these are just stupid fishermen that don't know how to save themselves. We are just going to analyze these four scenarios because that's how we try to understand principles. So I know all of you are very smart and all of you are quite excited on trying to figure out how to save these four fishermen. But again, that's not important for this session. We just try to understand principles here. Let's just move on. How about that? So let's try to understand from here what truly are principled arguments. You might want to write these down in shorthand or maybe take a screenshot. So a principled argument has more to do with the morality of an action as opposed to the consequences of that action. If we go back to the previous slide, you'll be able to see that the consequence of each action here was the same, which is that three people get to live and one person gets to die. However, the morality of action in each scenario was quite different. And the reason for this is we talk about the principle of free consent. We talk about the principle of protecting rights of minorities and, different principles. So a principled argument has more to do with the morality of an action as opposed to the consequences. So it doesn't matter if three fishermen get to live and one fisherman gets to die. Some choices are still morally wrong and some choices are still morally okay. I hope that is clear to everyone. The second thing you need to note about principled arguments that they're more about the right and wrong and less about the outcome. So we don't care if doing the right thing leads to a bad outcome. We think that doing the right thing in and of itself is what you should choose. So again, principled arguments are about right and wrong and not about what the outcome is. Maybe some of you could make the argument that in this scenario, then the principled argument should be that all of them should just die and none of them should try to kill each other because killing anyone else is also principally wrong. And to be honest, that would be fair as well. There are different kinds of principles. You have the principle of free choice, you have the principle of consent, you have the principle of protecting minorities, you have the principle of not harming anyone at all, even if you get to survive. So, this is exactly what we try to determine in debates as to what principles should we follow and why some principles are maybe more important than other principles. The third thing you need to remember is that principled arguments are usually extension of values that are already considered as good or useful in society. So you already know that the right to freedom of speech is a good right because it helps you speak up against injustice. It helps you call out bad things that might be happening. And principled arguments are usually just an extension of this. You don't have to go to space and try to figure out some a really complex principled argument that you might not understand or you might not have ever heard of. In most instances, you can just make principled arguments by extending upon the values that you already know, values like you shouldn't harm other people, values like you should care for others, that everybody should have a right to speech, everybody should have the right to information, everybody should have the right to live and stuff, and other similar principles. I hope this is clear to everybody. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask right now, and you can raise your hands. Ayan, go ahead.
Is there any other kind of argument? Maybe a argument where maybe there's a situation where you have no choice but to do something other than just morally acting, or maybe a legal side of point of view according to these arguments.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So again, I just want to reiterate that when you make an argument in a debate, it is separate from the legal systems which we live in. So whenever you're going to debate, in most instances, it's not going to be set in India. It's just set in the world in general. Given that most countries follow different laws, you can't really determine which law applies in the debate. And the argument then has to be made on a principled basis about if this is the right thing to do or not. So again, this is exactly what principled argument says. The principled argument says that even if the outcome is you get jailed for something, or maybe somebody else goes to jail for it, if something is the right thing to do, you should do it. Or if the argument or principal argument could also say that even if you go to jail for doing something, even if you go to jail for doing something, even if you don't go to jail for doing something wrong, you should still not do that wrong thing. So let's say you're arguing with your parents one day and you go and you shout at them. A lot of people would say that this is principally wrong. So even if you're not being jailed for this, even if the courts don't get mad at you, right? Even if you're not arrested, a lot of people would just consider this principally wrong. So again, principles are distinct from our legal systems. I hope this is clear to everyone. Hiransh had a question, if I'm not wrong. You had your hand raised. Do you still want to ask the
So
question?
my name is Rishant. So I
Okay,
was just about to ask you like where could we use a principal argument in a debate, but I figured it out. It's fine. Thank you,
okay.
sir.
All right, great. Let's move on then. So why are principled arguments important? Two reasons. And again, you might want to write down these two reasons. The first is that principled arguments are very persuasive and they can outright help you win a debate without making any other practical arguments, which is why these should also be run as the first argument for either side. And the second reason principled arguments are important is because they help you compare different sides very easily, because then you talk about valuing one principle over another and how it drastically changes the kinds of things you're willing to support in a debate. It just helps you figure out your moral framework, which again leads to a better world. So for example, you could talk about, valuing practical benefits versus doing the right thing. And this could be the core contention without okay, never mind the example. So I hope this is clear to everyone. Principled arguments are really important because they are really persuasive and because they help you compare against other principled arguments and even against practical arguments. So if somebody makes a practical argument that you should accept a bribe because that will help you gain a lot of money, which is good for you, the response there is quite simple. That is just principally wrong to accept a bribe. So even if the final outcome is that you benefit in some manner and nobody gets harmed, you should still not do this because it's considered principally wrong. Arya, go ahead. Arya, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Could a argument be both practical and principled?
So I think you can make an argument which has both aspects to it, but in most instances, especially when you're doing schools debating, these arguments will stand out uh, quite clear of each other. So mostly you'll first make a principled argument. Once you're done with the principled argument, you'll move on to making your practical argument. This will become a lot more clear as you learn about practical arguments as well, and why in most instances they are separate. Although At times they can be mixed. However, that's not pertinent to this session. Is this clear to everyone though?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on then. So again, why are principled arguments important? Because they help you engage. So you have to thinking about principled arguments just helps you explore a lot of interesting ethical dilemmas that are honestly fun and educational. Trying to think of how which situation is correct for three of the fishermen to survive and one of them to die is again a really interesting thing to think about if you think about it. So it's just really interesting and it helps you engage a lot more with the debate. Uh, let's move on. So how do principled arguments compare against practical arguments? Let's say the motion is this house would implement a tax on fossil fuels. Is the motion clear to everybody? So fossil fuels are basically, it's basically petroleum. So I hope that is clear. So you're going to put more tax on petrol, which can be burnt and emits a lot of, carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Proposition in this debate says that it is our duty to save the environment as we have inherited a clean earth. I hope this is clear to everyone. So proposition says it's our duty. Opposition says that if we don't have a tax on fossil fuels, developing countries get cheaper energy and thereby cheaper products. This benefit is more important than the rights of the people who are going to live in future. So I hope this is clear to everyone as well. So when you implement a tax on fossil fuels, that fuel becomes more expensive, energy becomes more expensive, and once energy is more expensive, producing different products also gets more expensive. And when certain products get expensive, poor people cannot afford it. So proposition says that we have a duty to save the environment because we got a clean earth and we should leave it as a clean earth. Opposition says that this is going to increase the prices of cheaper products and that is harmful for poor people who might not be able to afford it. Ransh, go ahead. Rishan, I hope
So
that's
I had a question, sir. Uh, yeah, so yeah. So
go
it
ahead.
might be a little bit of a dumb question, but
That's
how is
fine.
proposition's argument helping them?
Oh, yeah, we'll try to figure that out now. So again, proposition is making a principled argument here. They're not saying that implementing a tax on fossil fuels is going to, reduce the carbon that is going to be emitted. And once there is less carbon in the atmosphere, humans are going to live for a longer period of time and different arguments. Proposition is saying that it's just our duty to save the environment because we have gotten it as a clean earth. So it is a principal action we must follow. So proposition is trying to make a principled argument here, and opposition is trying to make a practical argument here. So proposition says that we believe that future people have a right to inherit a clean earth. After receiving the privilege of clean living conditions, we owe a similar obligation to preserve it and pass this on to the next generation so that we are able to avoid people being born into a world where there are consequences of respiratory illnesses, droughts, and unlivable conditions. So I hope this is a lot more clear now. This is the exact argument, exact principle that proposition is trying to argue, which is that we got a clean earth and we should leave a clean earth for our future generation and they should not suffer for something for something we are doing to our planet. So opposition here is making a practical argument, and practical arguments are just principled arguments with the underlying principle of utility. Now, this might be a bit difficult to understand. Does anybody know what the principle of utility is? Okay, so the principle. Oh, Yushika, go ahead.
I think it's basically just like that there's no like particular action that's like wrong or right, and it's more like whatever does the like greater good is right.
Yeah, you're about right. So, principle of utility basically says that wherever you get the best outcome by making the least amount of sacrifices, you that is the best choice for you. So the principle says that you should care about making the most amount of people happy while making the least amount of people sad. Ayan, go ahead.
In the future, you can directly change the environment with how bad it's going to get in the future, but you can still change the economy in the future because that's controlled by mankind. So I kind of believe for the proposition over here.
So you believe that in the future, whatever problems there are with the economy, we can just fix that, and that's why it's fine.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
the
I think
environment is not immediately, it cannot be immediately fixed.
yeah, okay, that's a fair response, I think. So I hope now you're able to see that even practical arguments are just principled arguments where you talk about the benefits versus the harms. So this is called the principle of utility, and any other argument that you make aside from principle of utility is mostly going to be principled arguments that we talk about in this session. So again, wait, let me remove. Yeah. Uh, whoa. Uh, Rishan, go ahead. Rishan.
So I didn't really understand principle of futility.
Okay. So the principle of okay, yeah. So the principle of utility basically says that wherever you get the best outcome is the ideal scenario. So you should choose the outcome which helps you save the most amount of people while harming the least amount of them. That
Okay.
as long as you're able to make more people happy and less people sad, that is principally okay. So even if some people are becoming sad or some people are being harmed, you're saving a lot more people or you're making a lot of people happy, which is why it's principally okay to make some sacrifices. So opposition here is saying that if you're going to make poor people suffer today because the prices of products increase, that is okay because the practical outcome of it is just much bigger, which is that you're able to save future generations and their rights. And in future, likely there are going to be a lot more people. So I hope this makes it clear how practical arguments basically are just talking about the principle of where you get the most benefits for the least amount of harms. Rishan, do you still have a question? Is that clear?
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, great. So what really makes a principled argument different from a practical argument? Principled argument, you might want to say that there is a responsibility to do something. So in the previous motion, it was there is a responsibility to save our future generation. If you have a practical argument, which is in the green box, you will say something like, if we implement the policy, the outcome that is going to be there is that we clean up the environment and illnesses go away in a couple of years. Or it could be that if we implement the policy, a lot of poor people are going to suffer because they won't be able to afford basic necessities. The ideal argument is the argument that talks about the harms and benefit to the people, while at the same time talking about if it's principally okay to do this harm or if it's principally okay to drive a benefit for certain people, and this is what makes an argument persuasive. This is the kind of argument we will try to achieve. However, we still want to make two different arguments and try to merge them together to say that, well, what we're doing is principally correct, and at the same time it is giving a lot of harm, it is giving a lot of benefit to people, or it is minimizing the harm that we are doing. Nihal, go ahead.
I have a question. When do we differentiate on when to use a principled and a practical? Because when we use a principled argument, does it not become subjective in some scenarios? Like for the first example, which you gave on fishermen, some might agree with killing one to save three, while others might not. So is it not better to use practical at some times?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And that's exactly what we're going to understand in this session, right? So we're going to talk about how you make a principled argument. When you realize that you can make a principled argument by giving a lot of reasons, that principled argument does sound quite persuasive. So while some people might disagree and say that, well, oh, this principled argument doesn't really apply, if you're able to supply a lot of reasoning behind this principled argument, they will be more likely to then accept that principle and say that, well, yeah, this principle should be applied, even if, there are some harms of it being done. Judges are trained in a manner that they understand principled arguments are different from practical arguments, and that if you follow the recipe of making a principled argument, that principled argument has to be credited and it is a valid argument, even if they believe differently. So in debating, we're not trying to actually change people's opinion as judges. We're trying to convince them about why a principle is either right or why this principle is wrong, or if a principle is being violated or not. And in these scenarios, we just have to, again, fulfill the basic burdens that we have of making a principled argument. This is going to become a lot more clear just in a couple of slides. So let's move on. So yeah, so in the debating world, usually we just assume that all arguments, that benefit the people are going to be practical. And we assume that all non-consequential arguments or all principled arguments that talk about the rights or wrong of the people are principled arguments. So what does non-consequential mean here? Non-consequential means that you don't care about the consequences. Non means no, consequential means, outcome or consequences. So a non-consequential argument is assumed to be a principled argument in this debate. So if you say that we should care about the future generation and try to save them, regardless of the consequences on poor people today, that is the right thing to do. So this is a principled argument. And if you say that, well, we are going to commit certain harms to poor people and not implementing a tax is going to benefit these poor people, that is a practical argument. Now, a lot of people might tell you that you actually can't compare principled arguments against practical arguments. However, that is not true. If you prove that opposition's policy is not permissible, it's just principally wrong, then you don't need to compare things. You don't need to follow the principle of utility. You can follow different principles that are more important. An example of this would be that if you torture criminals in order to extract information, right? While there is a lot of benefit to this, which is that you're able to extract information and maybe end criminal gangs, that is still principally wrong because you're harming someone in the process. So we don't care about what the consequence is. We don't care about the outcome. We simply care about the principle that is being broken right now. If somebody said that we will make a time machine and we will go kidnap baby Hitler, while that might lead to Hitler never being born, that is still principally wrong because you're kidnapping a baby that has not done anything till now. So principal arguments and practical arguments can definitely be compared because practical arguments say that we just don't care about the principled arguments say that we just don't care about what the practical outcome is. This policy is just simply not permissible. It is a immoral policy. I hope this is clear to everyone. How do you form principled arguments? 4 steps. The first is that you have to find the principle or the right that you're trying to defend. So you need to identify a principle. Principles can be of different kinds. We'll talk about that later on. The second is you have to establish a thought experiment or an analogy or an intuition pump and ask the question, where else do we uphold this right in society? The third is to explain why your principle is an extension of that analogy, or it's basically the same thing. And the fourth is that you have to explain why your principle is important, which is why is the world going to be a better place if we uphold this principle? So I hope these 4 steps are clear. First, you want to find your principle. Second, you want to have an analogy, where you ask the question, where else do we uphold this right in society? Third, you want to explain why your principle is an extension of that analogy, or it's the same thing. And fourth, you have to explain why your principle is important, which is basically answering the question, why is the world going to be a better place if we uphold this principle? At the same time, you also might want to act really passionate and try to add some emotions into the argument that you're trying to make. Joanna, go ahead. If I'm pronouncing your name correct, please feel free to correct me otherwise.
No, that's correct. I just wanted to understand the second point. I didn't really get it.
Yeah, all right. Let's take an example and try to understand this, right? So let's talk about step 1 first, which is you identify a principle. So how many of you have watched Marvel movies? Just raise your hands. Okay, we have a lot of people that have watched. That's great. So if you watched the movie Black Panther, the movie is about reparations, which is that communities that have been harmed need to have reparations so that you can fix the harm that has been done to them, or you can make sure that this harm does not occur to them in the future. So the principle we follow in Black Panther is the principle of reparations, which is that people who have been harmed need to be compensated for it. In the movie, in the 3 series, Scarlet Witch, Nebula, and Loki, you have the principle of free choice, which is that individuals should not be controlled by anyone, or they should not have to make a choice under bad circumstances. The principle is that you should let people make a choice that is of their own free will, where they're not coerced, they're not threatened, and decisions are not made for them. They make decisions for themselves. In the movie Age of Ultron, the principle is of liability or responsibility. who exactly is responsible for the harm that might be committed by your creation? So Ultron was a creation of people in the movie. So the principle is it really the liability or the responsibility of these people that have created Ultron to fix the problem they have created? In Civil War and the Sokovia Accords, the principle was of, would you rather have safety for your people or would you rather have liberty for them? Which is that you let people be, Avengers be, or you use them as security. And the fourth with Thanos is the pillars of justice, where he says that I'm going to save the universe because I'm going to eliminate half the people and there will be more food and place for everybody else to live. But then you talk about how this is just principally wrong because this is not justice for anyone. People are being killed without their consent, and these people are being harmed. Their life is being taken away from them. So here, the principle that we talk about is, just following the pillars of justice we have in each society. So you have to identify a principle, and a principle can look like any of these scenarios: a principle of reparation, a principle of friability, a principle of free choice, a principle of justice, of following the pillars of justice, and the principle of do you give liberty to people or do you use them for security? I hope this is clear to everyone. The chat is lighting up, I see. Yeah, I see all of us are quite excited about Avengers. That's great. So this is the first step. You identify what the principle you're talking about is. Uh, so in reparations, you could say that the motion could be, this house would pay reparations to women. In free choice, it could be, this house ban cosmetic plastic surgery. So if you ban cosmetic plastic surgery, the argument is that this is principally wrong because you're not letting people make the free choice that they're entitled to make. Uh, the motion could be, this house would legalize the sale of human organs. The argument here again would be that you should not ban the sale of human organs because people have the right to free choice and they can make whatever choices they want, even if that choice is a bad choice. For the responsibility, the motion could be, this house would fine social media organizations for hate speech, where you talk about, is it really the social media company's responsibility to make sure there is no hate speech on their platform or not? Then you could also have the motion, this house would permit the use of torture, which again is about making sure you give liberty to people or do you give security to other people. In pillars of justice, the motion could be, this house would allow judges to significantly exceed normal sentencing guidelines in areas of high crimes, where the principle is that you should not do this because it violates the principle of justice, and that is, again, just morally wrong. So I hope this is clear to everyone. The first step is to identify the principle, and this is one of the most important steps. Once you have identified your principle, go to the second step, which is come up with an analogy or a thought experiment where you answer the question, where do we uphold this right in society aside from this scenario? Uh, all right, so here the judges need to be explained what it is that the average informed voter should be finding valuable that is often difficult to do in an analytic case. So uh, we use thought experiments to establish, common premises by appealing to the judge's intuitions on how to use these thought experiments. How do you do this? Basically, you have to give a thought experiment and point out to the judge why they have the intuition claim that the situation in the motion is analogous to the situation in thought experiments, and these judges should be then able to apply the same intuition. Uh, an example of this, if you say that this house would torture criminals to obtain information, let's say that's the motion. This house would torture criminals to obtain information. The principle here is that you shouldn't torture anybody because it's a bad thing, even if it leads to some benefits of, reducing crime rates. The analysis or the intuition pump you can raise here is that you ask the question, judge, would you torture a 3-year-old child? Well, that's extreme. Would you torture an 8-year-old child if that child could help you bring down a gang of thieves or a gang of murderers? Would you torture this child? And in most instances, the judges will say no, and they'll be able to see the analysis the extension you're trying to have here, which is that if you can't torture an 8-year-old child because it's just wrong to torture people, it's wrong to torture people even if they're criminals because they have the right to liberty. So here you have to create a thought experiment, or you have to have an intuition pump, or you have to come up with an analogy. This analogy should be similar to the situation in which you're debating. I hope this is clear. This is going to become a lot more clear though. We have raised hands. Rishan, go ahead.
Sorry, sir, my hand was just raised, my fault.
Oh, that's fine. Atharv, Mehika.
Yeah, my hand was also accidentally raised.
Okay, whoever raised their hands accidentally, please keep them down. Let's take questions. Ira, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. So you said that we shouldn't torture the adult criminal, because like that's inhumane, right? But
Yeah.
what if that same criminal has also done inhumane things like murder, or there's a lot of other instances, but wouldn't it be basically fair or equal if you were to torture that person?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think the response here is that principles are not always, they don't always follow the same intuition. So just because somebody has broken a principle and they have, let's say, murdered somebody else, that doesn't mean you should also break the principle and then torture them to get information. Because note, here the consequence is that maybe they're suffering for a crime they have committed, but it is still a principle that is being violated, which is that people should not be tortured. Does that make sense to you? So principles are independent of each other.
Yes, but still, wouldn't it make it completely fair? And yes, I understand that you should always be the better person, but in some instances, it could be fair because you're not killing the person, you're not doing the exact same fate, you're doing just a little less. So,
Okay. So the principle here we're following is not that everybody has a right to live. The principle we're following here is that everybody has a right to live without being harmed for arbitrary reasons, or just in general, they should not be harmed at all. So let's say, Ira, let's take you as an example. Tomorrow you find out that there is a gang of people in your neighborhood who are stealing from old people, and old people are becoming poor because of that. Is that question clear to you?
yes.
All right. You don't want to give this information up because that gang of thieves, they're your friends, basically. You find out that they're your best friends from school. So, do you think in this scenario, it would be okay for the state to torture you because they can save a lot of people from going poor? They can make a lot of people happy. They can stop a lot of people from being scared every night because they're not scared of the thief entering your house, right? So, even if you're at fault because you're not giving up the criminal, should you be tortured for it?
I mean, I guess not. But what if I did give up the information? Like, even if it was my best friend, if it was something like really wrong, like being a criminal like that.
Yeah, so exactly. The principle here says that it doesn't matter if you've done something else, you still have the right to live a cruelty free life. So I'll give you an example of this. Just because we jail people in according to our legal systems when they have committed crimes, we still don't torture them in jails. We don't give them, electroshock therapies. We don't beat them up. All of that is not allowed, even though most of these people have committed some heinous crimes. And the reason for that is this, that it doesn't matter if you have done anything else. Again, this is a non-consequentialist argument. It doesn't matter what the consequences of this are. It doesn't matter what you've done before. You still have the right to this principle of not being harmed, the principle of having free choice, the principle of not being, used by other individuals to provide security to others. So the principle is independent of what you might have done before. Does that clear it up? Okay, Ayan, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. I have two questions.
Yeah.
My first question is, what if they don't torture the criminal physically, but they threaten the criminal's family or like position and job or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So let's say the scenario is you're going to threaten the criminal's uh, family, just any family member, right? So you threaten the criminal's family members in order to get them caught. So while you might be saving a lot of lives here, again, these people have done absolutely nothing wrong. They shouldn't be tortured for it. They shouldn't be threatened for it. So we would consider even that to be principally immoral. So again, it doesn't matter if you're saving lives or if you're saving people from going poor or you're making people more secure. You should simply not break the principle of controlling people, using them as an ends to a mean, or harming them in any manner whatsoever, be it emotional, be it physical, be it mental. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I have one more question. So you said
Yeah.
that if a judge gets a situation like this, they will always decline trying to torture the criminal. But in lots of countries, especially in rural areas mostly, this is still a problem, and the local police often torture criminals to get just a little information out of them.
Oh, so when I said judges, I meant debate judges, right? So again, you don't have to tie it back to a legal system. The legal system is completely separate. Your argument is we don't care about what's going on in the world. We don't care about what the consequence of this is. We simply care about the principle, which is that it's wrong to break this principle of free speech, of you know expression, principle of having a right to loving anybody and stuff like that. So again, principles are independent of legal systems, what the consequences might be, what the person has done before. You don't care about anything else. You have to follow the principle no matter what, because, uh, and the reason behind this is the intuition pump. If you would not torture baby Hitler, or if you would not kidnap baby Hitler, just like that, you cannot actually torture another person because it might commit future, because that person might commit future crimes, or you'll be able to save crime, you'll be able to prevent crimes using that. I hope this is clear to everyone. We are at a paucity of time, so we are going to move on and try to finish our workshop before we take any more questions. So right now we have covered two steps, which is that first you need to find your principle, and second you need to come up with an analogy or a thought experiment where this principle is being upheld in society. The third thing you have to do is explain why your
Sir, I'm
principle.
so sorry to interrupt, sir. I have to
Yeah.
go for a different class. Can I leave?
Yeah, that's completely fine. All right, so everybody, now we're going to stop taking questions to a great extent, and we're going to rush through this a little bit. So I want everybody to note this down or take a screenshot of this, no matter what, because this is the most important part of the workshop. First, you find your principle. Second, you try to come up with an analogy where you ask the question, where do we uphold this right in society? The third thing you want to do is explain why your principle is an extension of that analogy or why it's the same thing. The example here is, this house believes that football clubs should be held responsible for the actions of their fans. So here the principle is of responsibility. We say that it is their responsibility, so it is fair to hold them responsible. When do we hold people responsible in other scenarios? In three ways. One, where they were the cause of the harm. So if somebody is selling you cheap alcohol or cheap food which might harm you, we hold these people who sell you the alcohol or the food responsible. Uh, Second, you say that, well, we hold them responsible because they failed in their jobs. So clubs have a job to keep people in their premises safe, which includes them, being safe from abuse. This is the second place they're being harmed. And the third is that these clubs were benefiting from it. So if there is rivalry going on between people, if people are arguing with each other and actually fighting, in most instances, club benefit from this because they get a lot of attention through which they get a lot of money. So where is this right already being upheld in society? If you look at an organization where people are employed, organization is directly liable for their employees, and we hold them responsible for any actions that might cause harm to their employees. Why is this important? Because this helps you explain that justice should happen regardless of what the outcome is. We put people in jail not because it stops crime, but because it's also fair to not torture these people, to protect them from harm from other people, which is that we are giving them justice regardless of what the outcome is. I hope this is clear to everyone. Nivan, do you have a question?
Yeah, so can you just please go back to the Last slide.
Yeah, this one. All right. All right, let's quickly cover how you can rebut a principle. There are two steps to it. The first is that you argue directly with the logic of the principle. How? So you say that, yes, this is a principle, but in these circumstances, it does not apply. So you say that this principle doesn't apply here because it doesn't qualify the circumstances. Let's take an example. The question is, this house would ban reporting on private lives of celebrities. Proposition says that we should ban this reporting is because people have a right to their privacy. Opposition's principled rebuttal is that usually paparazzis capture pictures of celebrities in public spaces where the right to privacy simply does not apply. So the first way you can rebut a principled argument is to say that this principle does not apply in this scenario. The second is that you compare it with another principle and you weigh it out. So oftentimes you'll have to end up doing analysis on why X is more important, X right is more important than Y right. So again, uh, yeah, yeah, why one right is more important than another right. If you go back to the Slovakia of Accords, there the argument was, do you care? So there the argument was, should you follow the principle of having privacy of individuals, of giving them, liberty instead of privacy, or should you follow the principle of making sure that people are secure because you're using certain Avengers, outside their will to save humanity from alien forces and stuff like that. The first way is to just say that this principle doesn't apply, and the second way is to rebut a principled argument is to say that, well, there is another important principle that is more important. So in the Slovakia Accords, you could say that the right to autonomy or the right to free choice of the Avengers should be curtailed. You can break that principle because in exchange you're protecting a bigger principle, which is that keeping billions of people secure, and that principle is just more important than the principle of liberty for a few Avengers. I hope this is clear to everyone. Again, two steps of of rebutting a principled argument. First is to say that this principle does not apply in this circumstance. And second is to compare it with another principle that might be more important. This is called weighing. So, you weigh it out against another principle that's more important. I hope this is clear to everyone. Uh, all right, let's take an example. This house would ban all procedures to alter one's racial appearance. Proposition says that altering your racial appearance influences other people, it entrenches stereotypes, and therefore causes harm to others. Therefore, we should limit the liberty of people and ban altering racial appearances. Gov says that proposition, which is the same as government here, says that altering your racial appearance influences other people, entrenches stereotypes, therefore causing harm to others. Opposition says we only limit people's choices for the sake of community benefit under some circumstances, and this is not it. Why this doesn't apply, and this is the reason why this does not apply to the principle. When your personal choice limits other people's choices, right? So why it's not right to drink and drive, why it's not right to harm others, and why it's not right because you take away their freedoms. So the analogy here is the same, which is that just because you have a right to, practice your own choice of, making yourself feel better, you cannot trade it off for the right of other people not being harmed, right? So just like you're not allowed to drink and drive, even though you might say that you have a right to free choice, you're not allowed that because other people have a right to live safely. They have a right to not be harmed. So one principle here is more important than another principle. So here you can say that me changing my appearance may influence people, but it does not limit other people's choices. They can still choose whatever they want. Uh, then you can say that we are respecting people's choice in this, and in this situation, we are not justified in limiting choice. And this is why this principle is important. So again, there are different ways you can tackle a principle. In most instances, you're going to want to do two things. One, explain why this principle does not apply. Or second, give another principle, compare it with it, weigh it with, and explain why the other principle is more important. I hope this is clear to everyone. Any questions? Nihal, go ahead.
In the last argument, you said no. A question I had is if there was a motion on this house would propose a universal basic income for everyone, would you say it's better to use a principled or practical argument?
I think you should use both, to be very honest. So first, you should say that everybody should get a universal basic income because people have a right to financial security, and a universal basic income provides this to them. This way, people don't live in fear of financial insecurity. They don't live in fear that they might be kicked out of their homes tomorrow. They might not be able to feed their family. The second reason you should give universal basic income is practical, which is that universal basic income makes sure that you can pursue education, that you can access healthy food, you can make sure that you are able to afford healthcare and different things that might be important for you. So again, in every motion, you can make both arguments, a principled and a practical. First, you should make a principal argument, and second, you should make a practical argument.
Got it. But in a debate, if opposition were to propose a practical argument with more utility, would the adjudicator be leaning towards the practical or principled one?
That's a great question. So at the end of the day, it just boils down to how well you have proven your principle, or how well the other person has proven the principle of utility, or just proven why the pragmatic or practical benefits are really important and they're certain. So the adjudicators will be ready to credit a practical argument, and they'll also be ready to credit a principled argument. It simply depends on how well explained that principled argument is.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Raghav, do you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So my question was to like rebut a principled argument. You give two options, uh, either to either to show a better principled option which has more moral value, or to have a practical solution. But what if there is no other principled no other a principled argument which has better moral value? Then how would you rebut it?
So just to clarify on that, first thing you should do is, make sure that you're able to explain why the other side's principle does not apply in this scenario. And the second step is to say that there is another principle that's more important than this, that's bigger than this, or one that's affecting more people. In almost every situation, you will be able to figure out a principle, and you just then have to prove why this principle is more important. Likely it's going to be is that this principle protects more vulnerable people, or this principle protects a lot more people, or that this principle is simply more crucial because people have a right to this principle more than they have a right to another principle. So you'll almost always be able to find another principle, and you'll be able to have at least some reason for why this principle is more important and it should be valued more than another principle. Is that clear?
Okay, thank you.
All right. If no one has any other questions, we can end the session and you all can go have your dinner and, spend time with your family. Okay, no questions? All right. Bye, everyone. Have a nice day. All the best for the Oxford Union debate.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day.